During this period of rapid growth, unscrupulous chiropractors moved rapidly from town to town. They stayed in a community only long enough to skim the cream. They left behind them a trail of broken promises, shattered hopes, and disillusion. The product of that mistake was a community whose reaction to chiropractic was anything but favorable. All too often, other chiropractors going into such communities found that the public was unalterably prejudiced against the very word chiropractic. Okay, I want to stop right here. Oh my goodness, this still hits home today. What have we done to ourselves? Oh my goodness. Next thing is titled hatred. In this period of rapid growth, there developed within our ranks an undermining and destroying hatred which seriously hampered our progress and which in a measure still remains. There was hatred of the mixer for the straight and the straight for the mixer. This hatred was transmitted to the graduates of different schools, so when they entered field practice, they viewed one another with suspicion and refused to join in those common movements which would have been helpful to the profession. Okay, this has got to be a joke because this is 2020 and this is an exact description of what's still going on today. Oh my goodness, what a find, what a find. There was an undying hatred for the individual medical practitioner. Still is. How often have we seen the spectacle of chiropractors entering the field with a professional chip on their shoulder, convinced that all medical practitioners were objects to be distrusted, discredited, and, if possible, destroyed. In those early days, it was not uncommon to hear chiropractors say, "In another 10 years, there won't be a medical doctor left in practice." This is no exaggeration. Strange as it may seem in this day, that was the idea which chiropractors honestly held. I hold no brief for organization medicine. Yet I recognize that there is a vast difference between the individual medical practitioner and political medicine. Very often the physician as an individual is a high-grade gentleman of splendid character and highly respected in his community. Recognition of that fact, however, does not blind me to the knowledge gained through experience that organized political medicine is unalterably opposed to the chiropractic movement and to the individual chiropractor. Destructive advertising. Oh my goodness, this is going to be good. In this period of rapid growth, the public was assailed with a vast amount of bad advertising in printed form and by word of mouth. Large claims were made which could not be fulfilled. Our advertising was destructive. All too often it concerned itself with pointing out the superiority of one chiropractor over another. Imagine that. One chiropractor would have an x-ray. He would advertise that it was unsafe to go to a chiropractor who failed to use an x-ray. What was the natural reaction to such advertising? The natural reaction was that his competitor put in some other kind of equipment and advertised that his particular method was the only safe one. Whether it was done by word of mouth, by inference, or by direct statement, this sort of advertising was freely indulged in by many chiropractors. On the sidelines stood the public. It had no way of knowing whose claims were right. This public, untrained in professional matters, could not know. What was the result? It decided to trust neither and continued on without seeking the relief which chiropractic could have given. Responsibility avoided. During this period of rapid growth, self-satisfaction pervaded our ranks. Offices were full, patients were plentiful, and all too many of us failed to give the study to which our cases were entitled. Patients came readily. If one dropped out, another would take his place. During this period of rapid growth, schools made the fatal mistake of accepting anyone and everyone, regardless of their fitness to become chiropractors. The sole qualifications for admission being that they had the tuition price. As a result, many entered our profession who were totally unfit by natural endowment to enter any profession. This was a time when schools should have established standards which would assure able and worthy representatives. So far as I know, no single school can be blamed for this mistake. All were equally guilty. In this period of rapid growth, we thought too much of chiropractic as a business and not enough of chiropractic as a profession. We failed to realize the moral responsibilities which are undertaken by any man or woman who enters any professional activity. We were falsely proud of our emphasis on business. We collected in advance. We kept our patients coming as long as we could. We almost totally lost sight of the fact that we were a profession. Oh my, strife for leadership. In this period of rapid growth, there developed a strife for leadership, which kept the profession divided into innumerable factions and cliques. This strife for leadership was evident at our national affairs, our state, our country, and our city groups. The determination of certain personalities to dominate and their inevitable friction with other personalities equally determined brought a state of strife and friction within our profession, which has been far more responsible for our limited progress than any opposition received from outside our ranks. In this period of rapid growth, there developed a spirit of the public be damned. Prosperity was ours. We were riding on the crest of the wave. We failed to realize that our continued success and progress depended on public favor. Because we had so much public favor, we were improvident. We were careless of it. We let it slip between our fingers, little realizing that one day we should suddenly wake to its loss. Lost, a militant cause. During this period of rapid growth, we succeeded in passing protective legal enactments which gave us recognition in many states. I do not criticize that procedure, but I do say that when we gained legal recognition, we robbed ourselves of the militant cause which had attracted to us public support and public favor. Prior to the passage of legal regulations, the chiropractor who was prosecuted in such states as Ohio gained large publicity, much public sympathy, and a militant support. After the passage of laws regulating the practice of chiropractic in Ohio, he who failed to make an effort to get a license received little sympathy from the public when he was prosecuted. If there is one thing more than another today which the chiropractic profession needs, it is a militant cause. He need not gather the support of a majority of the public around such a cause. He may never even win his objective, but if he can gather a militant minority around a vital cause which clearly establishes an unfair limitation of his right, he will do much toward regaining public favor and increasing his personal practice. That's a very interesting statement. Very interesting statement. Almost from 100 years ago. Makes me think of the rallies in New Jersey for personal freedom in medical choice. I digress, but this speaks exactly. From 90 years ago, this is right present even today. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I guess those who don't know their history or can't find it until somebody outside the profession that loves our profession finds it for us, we're doomed to repeat it. And it looks like we're living that cliche that is so true. Period of depression begins. This period of rapid growth was a direct result of the foundation laid in our pioneer stage. The mistakes we made during our successful era were the direct and only cause of the period of depression which later beset the chiropractic movement. The period of depression had an insidious beginning. Few recognized its early signs. Gradually, the slipping process began. Chiropractors found that patients were not so ready to come into their offices. Practices began to fall away. Our following was beginning to drift from us not because of any change in the intrinsic merit of chiropractic, but because of the mistakes we ourselves had made. No single cause. I have heard it said that the advent of the Neurocalometer brought about this period of depression. Well, I believe there were many evils in the introduction, the marketing, and the high-pressure methods, as well as the absurd claims made for this machine. Nevertheless, I am certain that it alone was not responsible for the depression in chiropractic. Now, I need to speak to this because the Neurocalometer was patented in 1924. That warrants some investigation, but that's what he's talking about here. All right, I am certain that it alone was not responsible for the depression of chiropractic. I need point to but one fact to establish the truth of this assertion. The fact is that the period of depression had already set in about 2 years prior to the advent of the Neurocalometer. True, it is that the havoc the N.C.A. wrought in our professional mind and our technical practice was a large factor in making that depression more dramatic or more drastic. Yet it cannot be said that herein lay the cause. I've heard it said that mixing was the cause of our depression. I can't agree with that. I must agree that unintelligent mixing was in many cases very harmful. But at the same time, we must recognize that fanatical claims made by those who do not mix was also a large factor in our troubles. The cause of depression was accumulative. It rested on no single mistake. Rather, it rested on the aggregate of all of our mistakes. To be continued in the July issue. Wow. 1935, June 1935 is when this is written. Again, I'm overwhelmed. I'm actually overwhelmed at what this contains. And here's the next one, and I'll read this here in a second in a different recording. But my goodness, we're repeating this from 85 years ago. We're repeating the same thing. When he was talking about the hatred for the medical practitioner, and I just got back from DE, and one of the only posters in front of DE, you have the big banner that nothing's bigger than life, but there's the quote from the Medical Association reminding us that they didn't want to have anything to do with us either. And so there is this deep set divide, rightly so in many cases, between the medical profession and the separate and distinct chiropractic profession. Wow. Eye-opening. Thank you so much, Todd, for letting me read this, for giving this to me. I hope this reading was helpful. One of the things I really need to say as a disclaimer is I am Sales and Marketing Director for Titronics, which is a direct descendant of the Neurocalometer. So for him to bring this out here almost 10 years after it was produced, and then to reiterate that the presentation of the Neurocalometer technology caused a deep rift in chiropractic is interesting that you asked me to read this, maybe not even knowing that I'm part of Titronics. So this is really interesting for me on multiple levels. But the parallels, the repeat that's going on again in our profession is stated clearly here in 1935. So again, thank you very much.